The noise I heard. I awoke around 1:15 a.m. and heard my chickens outside letting out noises of distress. I just knew it, my neighbor's dog got loose again and is wanting to enjoy a meal. I told Joey I had every right to defend my property and my animals, even if it meant putting down his coonhound. Joey wasn't a bad guy, but he did consider his dog more important than my chickens. Last few his mutt killed, he gave me the money to replace them. I slid on my slippers and grabbed my shotgun. I already had a shell in it, just had to pull back the hammer. I grabbed a light I put over my head. I walked out the door. Living in the backwoods of Appalachia was a wonderful thing most of the time. I knew if I waited for cops to come, my chickens wouldn't have a chance. I ran to my backyard to where my chicks were in a fenced-in area. They seemed more startled that I approached them as quickly as I did. None of them were dead or looked to be in distress. Then I heard a voice. Trey. I figured that Joey may have noticed that his dog got past his underground fence finally. The voice sounded like it came at the wood line between our homes. Trey. I hollered out. Joey, is that you? Blue got loose again and almost took out the chickens. Trey. I strained my eyes but seen him standing by the edge of the woods. Trey. Don't worry about it, Joey, keep him out of my yard though. I'm sure we're both tired. He wasn't moving. It was so dark that I could barely see him. I started walking towards him. Trey. I'm coming, hold your horses. The closer I got, I began to notice that his back was turned to me. He was looking in the woods. Joey, are you all right? Do I need to call for some help? Trey. My stomach began to turn. I felt anxious as if my body was screaming to turn around. My legs kept on trucking though. I was only a stone's throw away from him before I stopped. I whistled and muttered to him. Joey, are you? It turned around. I don't know what to call it, it looked like Joey. It turned around and its eyes were bulged out and were 4 times the size of a normal person's. It opened its mouth and let out what I could only describe as, is a full man screaming as high as he could, and a swarm full of angry bees ready to attack. It pointed at me and began to sprint. I shot with the buckshot and it didn't faze him. I sprinted back to the house as quickly as I could. I was able to close the door and lock it. He kept screaming and began pounding on the door. I pulled out my phone and called 911. All I could scream was trying to kill me, help. I dropped my phone and locked myself in my room and then hid in my closet. I reached for another shell and loaded it in. I could hear my front window bust open and screeching. It sounded like it was running in 4 legs. I heard it busting through other rooms. I closed my eyes and began to pray that this would end. The door to my room busted open. It was rummaging around. It walked in front of my closet door. I held my shotgun up and waited. I knew it wasn't going to kill the thing. But I wasn't going down without a fight. Then sirens came into my driveway. It screeched and I heard my window break. An officer ran in hollering. I sat down my gun and left my hands up. I was so scared I couldn't even scream, it felt like. Eventually he opened the door and seen a weak, shaking man who thought it was the end. I walk out and see a few squad cars, as well as an ambulance. The officer tried to question me and get the full story. I explained the situation. The officer looked up at me with a dead expression and dropped his notepad. Son, do you not know the legends around here? What? Don't whistle near the woods, and if you hear your name, no you didn't. No. That's not real. Are you sure? He pointed at the wreckage in my house. That wasn't your neighbor. We don't often get calls like these, because we just find the bodies when someone calls it in. I called Joey the next day and he was with his family at the beach. I explained the situation and he told me he heard his name in the woods before too but had to ignore it. If you hear your name, no you didn't. Do not whistle in the woods. It's not just some wise tale.